Emma, and we pulled her off of today's schedule. Other than that, the agenda is printed.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we accept the agenda as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
First item on the agenda is Commissioner's Report, invoices. Didn't see any credit applications. Anybody have any questions on?
No.
And that's on the record. I want to express gratitude to Christie and her office for the way the Commissioner's Report was separated a little bit so that we have the jury duty and all that off the side. It made it read a lot easier. So
It has nothing to do with me, it's all the office.
it's muchly appreciated.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the Commissioner's Report and invoices as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have alcohol license.
Am I signing this? Just one.
Yeah, just sign underneath there.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the alcohol license as presented.
I have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then you said you had reimbursements?
I have a mileage, well, I have a couple mileage ones. This one is for an attorney, the Oneida County prosecutor that has been traveling back and forth, and Steve would like to reimburse him mileage for that. And I guess I need to clarify if he's bringing in county vehicle or not. If he's bringing a county vehicle, we'll probably reimburse Oneida County versus him individually. Do you know?
I don't, but I think he is covering a case for us that we have a conflict on in our office, right? That's the one.
Don't know. I didn't get a chance to talk to Steve because I was in the middle of a couple other things.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So
Okay.
if the commission wanted more information, that's why we're.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But I will verify who we're going to write the check to. Because if he's taking a county vehicle, I would be more comfortable
Yeah.
reimbursing Oneida County, not him.
Yeah.
Because that's how I would want it.
So he's working on a conflict case for us?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's attached is the case, I believe.
A
The
case
court
that
order.
our office conflicted out,
Why do you guys
the
have so many
prosecutor's
conflicts?
office.
Grand jury?
Why do you have so many conflicts?
Or one. Or one conflict.
Your quota for the year.
We'd like a detailed explanation as to why.
And then I also have, well, do you want to approve that one first?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the mileage reimbursement for Cody Brower as presented, or Cody Brower / Oneida County as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 So those are two more mileage reimbursement requests. One is from June of last year, the other is from July of last year. I took the initiative to email the department head, Ashley Greenhurst, to ask her why these were turned in so late. Through multiple correspondences, it sounds like you had denied it originally, and they feel that it should be reimbursed because they didn't know about the policy, so they're trying again. The lift receipts, I really did not get an explanation as to why that one had not been already submitted. She just said, I believe it was all on one reimbursement form, and it was returned saying it needed to be submitted differently. And then I said, so it got forgotten? She said, yes, it was placed in my box for me to review and complete. So it is probably appropriate to reimburse the lift receipts. However, there is a statute that says we do not need to, or that the county is not liable for anything turned in after November for the prior fiscal year.
And we already turned it down, and there was a reason we turned it down, and she did know the policy. We'd talked about it. And then they have vehicles in their arena,
Yes.
so I'm not inclined to change my mind on one that we decided.
Okay.
I don't mind the lift receipt, but yeah, I'm with Ernie on that one.
So the one that you're looking at with the lift receipts, she also has mileage on there. So if you disagree with the mileage, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, it
Okay.
does.
So if you disagree with the mileage, if you would line through that and put no per, and then initial it maybe,
Okay.
and then maybe put okay by
This
the
is all for the
list.
same trip, right? No, two
No,
different
two different
trips.
trips.
Okay.
I know there were a lot of individuals that did go to Nashville, but I believe it was a court conference, a problem-solving court conference.
It was a what?
Problem-solving training. And some people took vehicles, some didn't, but I believe they were pre-approved when vehicles were.
To go
taken.
where?
Nashville.
Tennessee?
Yes, so it was
Okay.
a national
We sent a
drug
bunch.
court,
Yeah.
Sent a
yeah. It was
bunch
a
of people.
handful, most of it was paid for through problem-solving dollars. These are D6 dollars. But it's specialized training for that problem-solving court.
This was all something that happened last summer.
Yes,
In June.
yeah.
And so where are you guys at on this?
Well, they brought it before us before, and we
Yeah.
said no.
To all of this or part of it?
Just the mileage
The
reimbursement.
mileage reimbursement.
Yeah.
The lift, so on this one, I scratched out no for the mileage
Perfect.
and initialed that, and then I put yes to the lift receipts on the bottom, so
Thank you.
that part is clear.
So
That's-
what we
Well, I'm
did
not
is,
going to second guess what you guys did. So whatever.
last summer, we were getting a lot of mileage reimbursement requests, and it's so much cheaper to take a county vehicle, and because we have the motor pool, any mileage reimbursement request, we have to bring before you to approve, and in theory, before someone goes.
No, this over there by mine should be fine. Oh, initial up there by the,
Right here?
So before anybody requests mileage, they need to get it pre-approved by the board.
because we feel there's enough county vehicles.
Before they before they go on a trip,
Yeah,
if they
and drive
want
themselves.
to drive, get their own car, they have to talk to us first, right?
Yeah, to
Okay.
find out what extenuating circumstances warrant it.
Okay,
So,
Well, and most people come to us ahead of time
right.
and have a conversation, and, yeah, if they're gonna go to Boise
Right.
and see family and stuff like that, sometimes we've paid half mileage and
Okay.
stuff. We try to coordinate and cooperate with people, but
So everybody in the county really knows this policy at this point, I would imagine, right?
it was emailed out by
Yeah.
Braden
Yeah,
when the policy was made, but Ashley has two different emails. She has a county email, and then she has a D6 email, and
okay.
both should be checked.
So, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we deny the mileage request for this employee for the trip dated 6/16, and deny the mileage request, but approve the lift receipts for the expense report dated 7/23.
would you state the year?
Yeah, 2022 on both of those. So 6/16/22, 7/23/22. Okay, done that.
All right, we have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 And then I have one SAR approval form. Are you to that point?
Yep.
Okay, this is a SAR approval form that you had signed already once, but this individual can start sooner. This is an attorney for the Public Defender's Office. He was working cases in Oregon. He is done with his cases, or will be done with his cases in Oregon by the 13th, and they are hoping to get him on board on the 13th as opposed to April 3rd. I did adjust the dollar amount for payroll, so instead of that line item having 35,000 in there, I believe it's 31,000.
31,002.
So there is sufficient funding to start him early. So that's the request. If you agree, I put the official start date up to the right. On front, you would initial.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
something that shows you've seen it, approved it.
Approve it.
And then we probably need to have Amy adjust the resolution for changing the official start date, or do a new resolution, or add the resolution, changing the start date, something like that.
Okay,
And I can work with her on that if you would like me to.
yeah, let's, if they
If you
make a
approve it.
motion.
All right, so, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the new start date for the public defender as identified and authorize changing the resolution to be brought before us.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 I didn't want to do any sign for the form, so I hope that was okay.
A lot of colors out there.
And then I can take that straight to Amy if that works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next we'll move ahead into the work session. Kirk Valentine? Sir, introduce yourself, please.
Kirk Valentine?
Go ahead and have a seat. Tell us what your request is.
Looking to get an exemption from Idaho Code Section 63604. Trying to put up a building I purchased quite a few years ago. It is metal poles with a tarp cover for hay storage for livestock. Filed for an agricultural permit due to the fact that obviously very cheap building to store hay and feed and stuff in. Was denied under the two sections of that code that states, number one, it's not taxed agricultural ground, even though it's multiple use, and that it doesn't sit on 5 acres. It's only just under 3 acres is that one lot. I own 4 total right there. Just want to be able to put a building up to start stockpiling hay. So.
Okay. Comments from our building department? Introduce yourselves too.
Tristan Borquin, Planning and Development Assistant Director. When we look at an agricultural structure, we look at that Idaho Code Section 63604, and those are the 2 criteria that we look at. We did make contact with Jeremy Messick at the assessor's office to check what the status of that property is for taxes, and it has been taxed as residential since 2014.
Yeah, it doesn't meet the requirements. It can't be agricultural.
Correct.
So what's the issue with it being just a structure, a regular structure, instead of an agricultural building?
Yeah, so that's what we suggested he move forward with, is just applying for a residential accessory structure.
My curiosity on it was, you know, this is south end of Pocatello. If I had the money to, I should say, you know, 3 miles down the road into Ingham, and had a lot that say was 10 acres, but still just sagebrush ground, which is what all this ground was, and I've been slowly creating pasture ground. That's why we bought this 4-acre parcel, keep our kids close to their schools and still be able to raise livestock. If I move 3 miles south, then because I have the acreage and I've possibly taxed that, I can put up the building under the agricultural to move to a residential accessory structure. So at a detached garage or whatever, possibly $550 more in permit, just permit fees, if not more than that. And all I want to do is be able to cover hay. I submitted drawings as far as the building itself, showing it's nothing but an arched with, so it's metal poles with a tarp.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to park vehicles. I'm not building a pole barn that I might, you know, would turn around like I've seen people do and turn into a shop. I literally just want to store an agricultural product.
Comments, John?
So currently, on the property you're on, you've got, you're harvesting hay, or what exactly?
No, I have family that does all that in Lava. I'm wanting to bring livestock in. horses. I
Okay.
would love to get to where I'm raising my own cattle, even if it's just for
Oh,
us.
okay.
We have been expanding our garden. My wife loves to garden, would love to do all sorts of farmer's market
Oh,
stuff
okay.
and whatever. You know, we bought a chunk of land, that's what we could afford. I mean, I don't make very much money as a contractor. I may not have a 40 or 50 acre farm that I'm in equipment and all that like my family does, but it's still a line of living I want to do.
So the issue is the $500 for the building permit.
I was just trying to keep it, yeah, I mean, I didn't understand why 3 miles south I could do that, but because where I'm at, it's multiple use, not taxed as an agricultural, because it doesn't have cultivated ground, it never has. I can't still do an agricultural purpose.
Yeah, I looked at the map, I see where you're at, and
Yeah.
I think the structure makes sense, but given the
But-
code.
You got a misconception there about agricultural, because it's an agricultural exemption. It doesn't matter what it's zoned. It's an agricultural exemption if you have 5 acres plus, and you can make the,
Oh, I understand
The
the ordinance.
statute,
I
so-
understand the ordinance and what it was put
Okay.
in. I'm trying to do the same building, just not on an area that was given that exemption to begin with. And so I was asking for exemptions on that based on, to do the same thing someone in Income would do, just because I don't have 5 full acres, or because it was zoned something different long before I bought the property.
but the zoning has nothing to do with it. That's what I'm telling you.
Well-
The zoning has nothing to do with it. Because you can have 5 acres in a different area, and you come into the
Doesn't zoning?
assessor's office, and you prove that you're growing hay, or you're making that profit off of that ground,
Oh, gotcha.
then you get the agricultural exemption. It's not just the zoning part of it. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay, gotcha.
So it doesn't matter the zoning part of it. But what matters is that you don't have the 5 acres. And that's specific in the ordinance. And so I'm not willing to change the ordinance for one individual, because then we'd open up a hornet's nest in the county, in my opinion.
But we're currently doing a review of the ordinances, right, over the course of the year? And would this be?
But this
would
is
something like
state
this be Part of
statute.
that review?
Yeah.
This is state statute.
Uh-huh.
This isn't us. We'd have to go to Boise and get the legislature to change the rules here.
Got
This
it.
isn't county statute, so
Right, right.
it's a bigger deal than that. But it's pretty plain and simple. To get that tax break, you gotta have the 5 acres.
And I'm not looking for the tax break. I am just looking
But-
for the permit. So for Bannock County,
It's
if
the
they go ahead and
$500
put
is
this
the
up.
issue. So I would be willing to meet him halfway and make that concession, if we can do that with the fees on that building permit.
The other potential issue is the current building doesn't meet the IRC building standard. And so there would have to be some work on the applicant's end to bring that up to standard in some way. Because right now, there's no snow load standard. It can't carry snow, period.
Me and you in your office. So when I bought this building 5 years ago, I went to Chase and said, okay, I would like to put this up. He told me due to IRC standards, I had to put it on the foundation. I says, for a tarp and poles, I said, whatever, so I never put the building up. It's still sitting in a crate on my property. I went to him after saving some money and was willing to put in sono tubes for it, and he said, oh, we're no longer worried about it being on a foundation, you will be fine. And that's when I finally said, oh, awesome. Let me go ahead and file for my building permit then. So I'm now getting mixed signals from Chase. I was told in their office, right there at the front desk, showed him this same book. He says there's one on Rapid Creek that they learned from that it doesn't meet that IRC point. I would be okay to put it up.
No,
that's-
as an
All the
abstract.
tarps
as
on
an
that one up
abstract.
Rapid Creek are all over the place. It's
Yep.
it's down.
It, not taken care, it was never taken care of the way it
Well,
was
I'm
supposed
just
to.
saying. But, and I appreciate that, Jeff, but where this is in the state statute and stuff, I'm not willing to move on it.
Yeah.
I don't want to open up something where we have a bunch of hearings and people want to come in for $200 and change everything that they do out in that office. I think that we need to keep it streamlined, and we have the process, and It's plain and simple and black and white to me. That's where I'm at.
So there is an existing process. I mean, this, to me, this doesn't sound like a huge deal to put up a tarp to cover some hay that he wants to use for his, you know, whatever he's gonna do on his property. There is a process in place for him to be able to do this?
No.
Or there's not a
Well,
process?
he can.
There is a process, but
if
it's more
he-
expensive,
It's a regular building
right?
on the property, but it's gotta follow and
gotta
meet
meet the
all
ARC.
building codes.
Yep.
So that process has to still be followed.
Right.
So if it doesn't meet the building codes,
Which
then
is-
he can't do it without
So,
making the corrections.
and going through an agricultural exemption process would exempt him from the building codes. Which is why as an ag structure, it would be beneficial for the applicant to apply for an agricultural structure.
Okay, so if I understand this at this point, then we have this state law that prevents him from doing what he wants to do, which is to get this agriculture exemption. And so,
And the
is that
only-
right?
Only
It-
part
it
exempting
lays
me
out the
from it is
process
that I
for
don't
him
have
to
5
do it
acres.
correctly.
Correct.
I'm sorry?
That's a
It
state
lays out a
statute.
process for him to do it the way that he needs to do it.
The way that
So
you-
there's a process for him to go through and get an agricultural exemption through the assessor's office. He hasn't done that yet. He hasn't met that criteria
He
yet.
can't make it.
That was my thing.
With
Yeah.
less than 5 acres, he can't do it.
Right.
So.
He can't get the
there-
ag exemption.
There is a subsection of that statute that does allow land of less than 5 acres to get the agricultural exemption, but it has to meet even stricter criteria
Yep.
than just having that 5 acres.
Did you go through that?
I did not even know about that portion of that code. This is the first I'm hearing of that any.
You still have to prove profit.
Correct.
You still have to prove, so
So
that
just-
would be
just
through
to-
the assessor's office.
Just to raise livestock, I would have to make a profit off my livestock in order to be considered agricultural, even though it's
Yes,
just.
Yeah.
that's in the
And
statute.
it's for 3 consecutive years, 3 consecutive seasons,
So,
essentially.
The intent of the agricultural exemption is not to just allow anybody to do what they want to do on their property. It's to provide relief to
For farmers
individuals
that don't make much
are
profit.
actually in the business and
that's the
aren't.
reason the permits cost less.
Okay, okay.
Sorry.
Hold on.
Didn't mean
We'll,
to.
we'll talk to you too, but let's let him finish talking.
So the intent of the statute, and there's multiple statutes across the board, not just in building, but all kinds of things that provide farmers and ranchers exemptions to different rules and statutes because of their situation. And so that's why automatically the 5 acre rule applies in most cases, is because when you are a farmer and you are struggling with all these items and you have a ranch to maintain and you have, you're dealing with so many things, and then you have a government entity that's trying to enforce these rules, these exemptions exist for a reason, not just for anybody because they don't want to follow certain codes or rules.
Well, if you haven't been to the assessor's office and tried to get the ag exemption for that structure, I don't know if you necessarily qualify for your whole property, maybe you would, I don't know. But I would probably start now.
Well, it'll be something I'll have to look into, yes. I didn't know about that end. As far as I knew where it was, it's always just been taxed where it's taxed, because you've got people 3 blocks away from me that do have, and maybe it's less than 5 acres, I don't know, but they raise their livestock and everything. People to the east of me, same thing. They have their corrals and cattle and pens, and all they have is their horses and a few goats.
Right.
We're basically trying to do the same thing, and I just wanted to save money on a building that I've been buying cheap, because hay in of itself is gonna be expensive enough. I'm not trying to
Hay is
bypass
very
process.
expensive.
I'm not trying to bypass processes. That's why I go to Chase, and I've been to Chase more than once on this same building in 5 years. I'm not trying to bypass any processes. I just didn't see why just because I'm not on 5 acres or on a massive farm where I farm hay and everything, I should have to pay triple the permit fee for the same building that someone who does have an actual hay farm or whatever could put up for cheaper. When we want to do the same, it's the same purpose.
Right.
That was my thing. I'm not trying
Yeah.
to bypass any processes.
Well, again, I'm willing to meet you halfway, but then you'd have to meet Chase's standards with whatever the building codes were. or
And
whatever, so-
I have to ask him some more on that thing, because I'm confused then with this building. You can run down to Tractor Supply and buy one that's the same thing that's 10 by 10. So if someone goes and buys one from Tractor Supply that's 10 by 10, are they forced to meet IRC standards as well, if they put it up?
Anything under 200 square feet is exempt from the building code.
Anything under 200 square feet?
Is exempt from the building
How
code.
many square feet is this?
30 by 40, 1,200.
Sorry?
1,200.
1,200 square feet. So it has to be is it 200 or less or under 200?
200 or less.
200 or less. So like if he had 6 of these things, he'd be fine at 200?
Yeah, if he spaced them out so that they're not one contiguous building, then that could be a,
That would work.
yep.
It's just more money to pay.
Well, that's interesting.
Right, 'cause then you're going to triple your cost,
Exactly.
quadruple your cost.
That's the rules.
Well, what I would ask is, go to the
There's the
assessor's
rules.
office, see if you can qualify for one of the ag exemptions as talked about, and then if not, then maybe we come back and revisit this discussion.
Just have
But
to go talk to him and find out what that process is.
Yeah.
See where the steps are.
yeah, because I agree with Commissioner Moser, I don't want to skirt the system and the processes or the laws that are in place, but I understand what you're trying to do, so I'm willing to maybe meet you halfway on the cost a little bit. But why don't you go look at that and then see what you find out there, and then come back, and then also visit with Chase more about your structure to get clear on where you're at with the IRC standards or not, and then we can have a different
I would
discussion.
love it if Chase would talk to me how we can meet halfway, because I get so many mixed signals from that office. In both as a personal and professional, and then both from the other professional side that I deal with planning and zoning all the time. So,
Get it in writing. If you don't get it in writing, it doesn't happen.
right.
That's where I'm at, Commissioner.
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, I don't think we have the authority to grant you what you want since we're dealing with a state statute. I like the idea of you being able to do what you want to with your property and cover your hay. And so like Commissioner Huff says, I would encourage you to, let's have some more conversations and see if there's a way this thing can get done to everybody's satisfaction.
Yeah, it sounds like I need to go do more digging. Like I said,
Yeah.
I never knew, I just knew I was being denied for not being 5 acres. That's as
Yeah.
far as
Yeah.
I understood that.
And I appreciate your research on that. I thought you did a good job with your research, looking up the statutes and all that, so good job with that.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. All right. Dina Marie Dye and the Treasurer's Office. All right. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us your story. This isn't the first time you've been here,
No,
so
Dina Dye. I really don't know how to present my case. I'm dealing with fighting my brother for probate and an estate. I've been dealing with that for over 25 years since my house. Since my dad bought my house for me and my kids. Kind of at a loss right now. I don't know how to explain my case. Dealing with other court issues.
So just for the history, I'm gonna have the treasurer's office go ahead and say what's going on so that everybody's on the same page.
She's had agreements with the commissioner since 2003 to waive some fees, interest and costs and stuff. So since then, I mean, it's been every year trying to catch up and get her caught up. In 2021, she came up before you guys and was denied. She was given a 3-month extension to get the taxes paid. She did get those paid, got 2018's paid, but now we're in tax deed for 2019. So she has not applied for the circuit breaker in 2022 either, so that she has full taxes now on 2022s. She did have it for 2021s. I have an application right here for 2023s because she hasn't applied for that year, but I do have that for her so that 2023s can be reduced. I feel she would probably most likely qualify for a circuit breaker for all these years, but she didn't apply last year. It's something you have to apply for every year, what she's been told, so.
Yeah. And you understand that.
I wasn't told I needed to apply every year. I thought, since I applied, it'd be there every year, because
Letters
No,
are sent
and
out.
I'm sure
also.
that, I'm sure when you applied for it, they told you over there that you have to apply every year. I just know that office does.
I talked to her.
Okay, and I'm not gonna argue with you about it, but you keep coming back every single year.
This is my first home. I've never,
Last year, or in 2021, your taxes were $57.56.
yeah,
Because you applied for the circuit breaker and you followed the rules, the advice that we give you. But if you won't follow the rules, then your taxes are $1,300 a year.
yeah.
I mean, so you gotta do your part here. We keep giving you breaks and we keep forgiving parts of your taxes, but you gotta do your part.
This
You're
is my
just like
first
every
home.
other citizen out there that has a home. You gotta do your part. We can't do this every year, or we will put your house up for tax deed.
I understand that.
Well, it just can't keep coming back every year. That's my opinion. Commissioners?
Well, I'm pretty sure we had the circuit breaker discussion when you were here last year, so you knew that was an issue. I'm with Commissioner Moser on that part. I have a soft heart, so I'm somewhere in the middle there, so Commissioner Crowder?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Moser. It sounds like, I wasn't here for the history of this, but it sounds like they have talked to you repeatedly, and you do have to follow the rules to get the breaks. And so I would encourage you to do that. And make sure whatever they're telling you, recommending you do, that you get it done and get your taxes reduced.
I make $9.14 between me. Well, me and my son make $9.14 a month. Yeah. I got another son that's just moved home in November. He was denied his disability. That's my job, is raising my kids. They're both at home with me.
And we've talked about this every time you've come.
Yes.
And I'm willing to forgive 2019 and 2020. But you gotta go get circuit breaker. You gotta figure out how it is that you're gonna pay the other 3 years of taxes.
You understand this?
Like I said, we do this every year, and I'm at the end. I think we've been very generous, and I think I'm talking very generous right now. I don't know what these two want to do, but I don't want to take your house. The commissioners do not want to take anybody's house. But part of society and part of the services that you enjoy, going down the roads and everything else, is because everybody else pays taxes, and you got to pay your share.
You understand that?
Are there nonprofit agencies that she might be able to go to get assistance with the situation she's dealing with?
I tried.
Some people have. Some people, they've gone to their churches and different things, and they've helped. But you know what? 2 years later, they're back in the same boat.
So the circuit breaker process, how long does that take to apply and get
I've got
approved?
the application right here for her for 2023. She just needs to do her part and get all of her paperwork together, handed in by April 18th.
All right.
That's for 2023s.
If we hold off on this until she gets approved, does that cause you guys any stress? I know how close are we to tax
It won't do
deed?
anything here, though.
I understand that, but what I'm making sure is that she gets her circuit breaker done before we do this. I'm applying a little pressure is what I'm doing.
The hearing's May 9th, so if she gets her paperwork in and the assessor's office, I guess, lets us know that she at least turned it in, they aren't gonna know if she's approved or denied at that point,
But at least we would know that it's in.
yes.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we would revisit this upon successful application for the circuit breaker for 2023.
I'd agree with that. We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, you got some homework to go do.
All right. I can do that well after I drop him off for adult day.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Christie?
Christy Davenport, Management Assistant. A little while ago, I brought the application requirements for Idaho Code 63602NN, which pertains to certain business properties being exempt from taxation. I brought that before the commission, and the requirements were approved to be placed on the website. The question has arisen as to what the process is once those requirements have been fulfilled. So once the person who is interested in, applying for those exemptions answers all the questions, fills out, a form, does it need to come before you in a work session like a regular property tax exemption might? That's the only thing that's holding us back from placing
Needs
this
to come
online.
before us, given to us ahead of time so we can review it. And then it would be during a work session that we would have a discussion about it.
And do you want the applicant to come at that time as well?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Did you have any other questions?
No, that was the discussion you and I had
Yeah.
because I had somebody that reached out to me that wanted to apply, and I wasn't sure if they would just go in the packet of the normal exemptions that we get with like the churches, or if we wanted to come here in a face-to-face, and so that's why I had this discussion today.
Yeah, this has different requirements than that. I mean, we gotta talk to them about their profits and their monies and what their business is and
Right.
and stuff, where the others, it's pretty set in statute. If you're a church, you get this, but this isn't set.
Okay.
And then they have to know that it runs 5 years and all the,
Right. I just wanted that discussion here.
and it
so-
isn't retroactive, it doesn't go back to
Correct.
past years.
My thing isn't coming up.
Another item I just would point out is I don't believe there's an actual form, because on the requirements,
Yeah, I haven't
it literally
found-
just says, the cover letter. I mean, they're literally responsible for putting everything together. There's no form for them to fill out. So they're not going to go on the website and find a form to fill out. They'll find these requirements, they'll follow the requirements, and submit.
Can we create a little form, just real simple,
Sure.
who you are, why you're asking, the amount you're asking for?
Christie, if you'll ask Amy, there is an old draft that never got
Oh, okay.
officially approved somewhere on Custer.
Okay.
And before there's any exemption or this, we're required to hold a public meeting.
Right.
To discuss it, and also, if people are applying and we're gonna look at things like trade secrets or whatever, we'd wanna know that ahead of time, because we could do an executive session to look at that. So it could come under at least a couple meetings, but at least one has to be a public meeting with a summary of what's gonna be, exempted and everything like that, so. And it's ultimately gonna be a contract between the business and commissioners.
Good. That's good, that's helpful.
I wasn't clear, was this ever, this application requirement, I was asking somebody, and I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but was this ever approved by the Board of Commissioners that these are the requirements to do this?
That was approved in the previous meeting.
And you remember which meeting?
It was last year in, I believe, February.
So there's not a whole code that we follow.
It pretty
Right.
much follows
So-
state
so it
statute.
is-
It's pretty vague. I mean, I read the code, it's very vague, and then I understood that this was draft, but wasn't clear that this had ever come before the board, that this was the process, and you say it has.
Yes.
Can you do me a favor and just give me the date of the meeting so I can watch that meeting?
Yeah, I sure can.
Before my time. So I don't know if
No,
you
you
want
were here. It was last year. Sorry, yeah.
the application, but no applications have come
No
before.
applications have come
Okay,
before us,
okay.
no.
But you're saying that this was actually, the board actually approved, this is gonna be the process, not just discussed it in a general?
So last year, I was asked to do some research on what the process is to apply. And so I did. I found that Cassia County had done some really good research and put this together. So with the permission of Cassia County and our legal team looked over it, then I brought it before the commissioners and they approved it to go on the website. There was one commissioner at the time that had a concern with the process like we're talking about right now. What do we do after this has been applied for and submitted? And we just never got around to getting it, on the website until now, so.
Okay, so,
Yes.
but you're saying that the previous commission did vote on this, they approved, this is the way we're gonna handle this?
Yes.
Because that's what I was not clear on.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
If you have questions on 602 NNs, Anita has been through a lot of these. So
Okay,
she could probably talk you through a little bit of the process. We also have a page of exemptions in our financials on the costs.
I did
and
talk to
things like
Anita
that.
about this,
Just-
and I don't think we've ever had an application, have we had an application on this, or?
No,
Not
We've
since- not
got
since-
a
Not
hand-
since I've been here, but
Yeah,
prior to coming there.
Yeah, we
Right.
had some prior ones.
We did.
Yeah, if you
But-
look at our financials, and I can show you that page.
Western,
Western
Western States.
States.
This
Western
one that
States,
just
Great
ended.
Western, on semiconductor, Amy's.
Right.
Those are the ones I can think of right off the bat.
Because we can't go over 5 years.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
said.
No, it's on.
Yeah,
But,
No, it
well,
isn't.
it's a very interesting, deal here. It sounds like I need to get a little bit more
Yeah.
information, but, okay, thanks.
Okay,
All
I'll
right.
go forward with your suggestion.
Thank you. All right. Where'd Scott go? Are you presenting for him?
Is stuff ready for him? I'll make a record.
Back any minute.
You can do it, Jake. We got faith in you.
a little one, I think.
Well, it's one's come before us and we're just
Yes,
updating and signing.
yes, exactly.
So, that's why I thought, might as well
No, he.
take
he
care of
came
it
in
real quick.
Specifically to do it for you guys. He wanted to be here. I'm sure he's back. But I'm Jake Crump, Operations Manager, Bannock County Event Center. So again, like I said, we just made some simple changes to this contract and bringing it back before you guys.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Phil, the ones we had?
No, it's all good.
Motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the amended contract as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Good job, Jake. Nailed it.
Thank you. Good job.
if we don't.
All right. Let's go ahead and, John, you put on here a discussion about vehicles in the coroner's office.
Correct. So what I wanted to discuss today is Tori Denner, our coroner, was in, I think it was last week, and presented to us and made a request to add another person to the coroner's office and also add a vehicle. And so that's what I wanted to have the commissioners talk about today, whether or not we should move forward on that request.
Okay?
No. So my feeling is, based on the information that the coroner presented, I think it, based on the number of cases they're doing, the workload they have, I think it is justified to add another position to the coroner's office. And I would say add a vehicle for that person as well. One thing I would like to ask our comptroller here is, do we have the money, or is the money available in the budget to meet the request that the coroner has asked for?
So I did some math to see, right now there's $15,000 budgeted for a part-time. employee, and then with that would be about $1,500 in benefits. If we were to make that position full-time effective April 8th, we would need another $8,789 in salary, $3,258 in benefits, or a total of about $12,050.
And where would that money come from?
We have a couple of funding options that we could come up with. I would not recommend moving B to A, just simply because
We added
That's-
$40,000 last year to B at the end of the season because they didn't have enough money.
right,
in
because
B.
autopsies were, we were doing a lot of autopsies
Yeah.
and drug testing, tox tests. We have money in county operations. There was, I over budgeted for juvenile facilities. Let me pull that back up. I had it open. We have an overage there because we weren't sure how much we were going to need at the time of budget. We have 125,000 left in there. 48,000 has already been reallocated for another purpose, but we could put 12,050 out of there, or we, in the past, have used contingency when there has been a budget needs for other departments that was moved.
Where's he at with his B budget so far, expense to date?
I apologize, I did not bring that.
Okay.
I wasn't prepared with that one. I reported, I can't remember when I reported to you in January for the first quarter where we were at.
Okay.
So at this point right now, I'd like to see all numbers before we go further with the discussion on it. See where the numbers are coming from. I have a couple of concerns. We brought this up in the past, adding people mid-year. The conversation about vehicles, we've had that conversation more than once, and I think it's a bigger, I mean, I know the request is there for the trailer and to pull the trailer and stuff, but we had this same conversation when we bought the truck in the past, and Tori said, I don't need a bigger truck, I can borrow a truck to pull the trailer, and so there's been answers to some of the questions or reasonings that you're bringing forward, but until we go through and have the exact numbers and stuff, I'm not willing to do that. And also, there needs to be a conversation of, do we need another vehicle even if we get another person? That they take the vehicles home. We've talked to a lot of coroners' offices, they don't take vehicles home. They're not their own personal vehicles, they're the county's vehicles. That's where I'm at.
And I'm with John on this one. I do think with the things that Tori outlined last week with the mental stress and stuff, I feel like that's important. So I'm not opposed to adding another body, but I am opposed to adding another vehicle because I think with the 3 people, you can rotate, leave 1 vehicle at home at least, or even 2, or at the office, and have access to it when you're on call. So I'm not for the other vehicle, but I am willing to consider the other body.
Well, I think maybe at this point, I mean, I would think, I feel like there's an immediate need for another person in that office. I think the office is overworked, and the sooner, and if we even approve something today, I don't know how long it's gonna take him to get another person. Gonna have to be an interview process, figuring out the right person. We can't have, like he described before, I'd like not to have a situation where we get a guy in there who realizes it's too difficult a job and doesn't last a year. So I would make a motion that we today approve the hiring of another person for the coroner's office, but I would wait on the truck until we get more information and maybe make that a future discussion if you guys would be amenable to that.
I still like the numbers. I'd still like them to come before us, in my opinion, before we make a decision of hiring another person. I mean, we've required that of everybody else. So that's where I'm at with that.
And I think we have the numbers, though. Can you just give us the numbers for getting another person?
I've
What are we missing here?
We're missing where they're gonna come from. We have some of it, but not all of it, correct?
So there is a way to get a way to get the money that would be legitimate to be able to hire the other person. And we're talking about, what, $12,000 is what for this year? Yeah.
Well,
So-
and I'm going to back Ernie on this one. In the past, we've always made sure that everybody came before us with the plan identified completely. So where are the numbers coming from? Give Christie and the auditing department time to do that. And so I'm okay if we move forward with prepping the job description and starting that, but don't post it until and we can have that as soon as Tuesday, where the numbers will actually come from.
So we would have another meeting next week to discuss this, and we would, at that point, or soon, we would have another meeting that would talk about where the money's actually gonna come from, what the actual numbers are, and so on.
Yeah. And that's the precedent we've set, and I think we should do that.
Okay, so then I'll retract that motion, and do we need to make a motion to move forward on
No, we can just
prepping
ask
the job and all
Christie
this
to
type
have
of
that
stuff?
for Tuesday.
I can have those numbers for Tuesday. I'll have it outlined, I'll email it to the board, and then identify the three, well, I'll look at coroner's B budget, see if there's any chance we can move it
Okay.
from B to A. If not, then I'll identify
Well-
other options for you to choose
And
from.
you gotta identify the wages
Yeah,
and stuff. I mean,
Okay,
you gotta tell me,
yeah, that's
you gotta
fair.
tell me what the wages are and what, what's going on.
I'll provide you that.
okay.
And then if
And
Tori,
so
if
we
you'll
would look to have this
job description.
agendized probably next week
Tuesday.
If you'll
sometime?
prep a
It
job
could be on
description.
Tuesday.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds good to me, let's do that.
Okay.
Further discussion?
Nope.
All right, Shanda.
Good morning, Commissioner. Shanda Crystal, Chief Procurement Officer, and I'm here with
Planning and Development Assistant Director Tristan Borkwin.
Planning and Development Assistant Planner Elise Foster.
and the first item that I had was originally to talk about signatures on the survey review roster. And I received an email this morning that had questions as far as the insurance requirements go. I have not had time to get with legal or the department to understand what are some of the liability that Bannock County would carry. So I would, at this point, like to request that we remove that item, that I can have time to get with the department and legal to understand some of the ramifications and the liability that Bannock County might carry, and if we are interested in making adjustments prior to recommending awarding and then signing contracts by the commissioners, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Touch base then. Okay. All right, the next item I have before the board is a draft of a pole barn, request for proposal for down at the Downey Fairgrounds.
Excuse me, it's the Bannock County Fairgrounds in Downey.
Dang it. Didn't I not say Downey?
You said the Downey Fairgrounds. It is the Bannock County Fairgrounds in Downey. Thank you. Sorry, but, yeah.
Right, just to be clear. So for review, and today I would ask if there's any questions or concerns with it prior to, we would like to get this posted and be able to, there's a little bit of a time crunch in between getting this posted and awarded and give them enough time to get it constructed well before the fair hits. We want that all buttoned up and completed before that happens. Right now, we are asking that they would have it completed by the 10th of July, just to make sure if there was any change orders or perhaps delays, that would give us just a little bit of room in between that and holding the fair.
Is this the building that was leaning? Doesn't seem like it's the building that was leaning to me. I thought it was over, that they got circled here squared here to replace.
So as far as I'm
I mean,
aware-
that doesn't make any difference about the pole barn.
All right. I had
I was
asked.
thinking this one's the one they had wedged up with.
Back in the back,
Two befores.
on that back row?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was the back row one, too.
I just don't, and that's a conversation we can have at the fair board. I mean, for replacing buildings, but I want to make sure it's the one that's deteriorated the worst.
I did ask for this map and the outline of it, just to make sure. I ran it through our planning and zoning department, just to make sure if there was any setbacks or any other questions that I should bring up as part of the RFP. But I did not check to make sure that it was the most dilapidated wall. I had just asked for a picture of where we were placing, but.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, put it out for bid. You've gone through Dan and
Yes.
everybody's looked at it. And
Where did the money come from this, for this project?
It's budgeted in the fair
we have
budget.
$125,000 in the
120.
budget.
So this has already been approved, right?
That's the budget
The
process.
money
Okay.
has.
All right, thanks.
Okay? Motion on that then?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve and authorize posting of the RFP as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 And the final item I have before the board is just a quick update. So on the procurement piece, we're chewing through a bunch of the projects that we have. The drug testing one, the first draft has been completed and sent out to their group for review and comment, and that should come before the board here in a couple weeks. And then the sanitizing chemicals that are used out of the jail for the laundry in their kitchen has been sent for final review from their department as well. And I anticipate that becoming before the board next week. On that one, we have added a site visit that both myself and the department feel is really going to help the contractors as they come and look at the pieces that we already have and then how their pieces are going to integrate. Because we're going to leave it open, like not required that they have a specific liquid or, dry powder or something like that, right? We want the most economical bang for our buck that we can get. So we want to leave it as open as possible, but then fitting with anything that any of the equipment that the jail already has. So we feel a site visit will be greatly enhance the bidding process. So, but that should come before the board next week. If there's any questions or concerns?
Two questions.
Yes, sir.
Number one, what's the status of the wildland fire grant posting?
I did
that?
reach out to Charity on that, and that had been told by Wes that there were some adjustments that they wanted to make prior to, and that it had been submitted to legal. I did tell her that I would follow up and just check to see where they are on that review prior to, but that seems to be why it was pulled originally. But they had added some things to it.
I was just thinking with the new snow, if we got that posted, we would have time this spring to start working on that before all the snow was gone, so.
Right? And that will, depending on how Mother Nature complies or not, could adjust the site visits. But in talking with Charity, those will be critical pieces
Right.
to get those contractors out to view how steep that property is or not, right? Because then they can either bring in equipment or they have to do it by hand, which is very costly. So that piece is critical, and we'll just have to wait until Mother Nature complies to get out there. But we do have estimated times and dates set in there already for that.
Okay. Okay. And then and this is just it's not on the agenda, but I want to ask the question. I was visiting with Adam the other day, and he talked about some software renewals that had come up, and they're giving us a fairly decent discount if we renew early, which I know is kind of a budget issue. And again, I don't want to go into it today, but I would just like to, and Kyle talked about that potentially with salt, buying some salt now as opposed to waiting till the next budget cycle due to some of the purchasing breaks or discounts that are available for buying things early. And so as we go forward over the next couple of weeks, I would like to maybe get some information, more information from the various departments as to where some of those discounts might be, what they would be. Like Adams, I think it was about a $10,000 discount on one piece of software if we renewed early. And so I thought if there's enough of that out there, maybe that's worth looking at and doing something. Anyway, I know it's not on the agenda, but just wanted to plant that seed since we're talking purchasing.
And some of that software, right, would be exempt from purchasing if it's something that we already have, if it's supporting something that we already own. So we wouldn't need to be looking at any of that. And depending on the SALT agreement with Kyle, depending on how long, what time frame we're looking at, if the one where we're still under is still good, if he has funds available, right, as the board
So
approves.
we've already blown through our salt budget and our overtime for plowing.
So then there's
Talked to him
a
yesterday.
different conversation there.
True, true.
But as far as procurement goes, right, there could be ways to do that if it was approved and there was budget for it.
Anyway, it was just a topic that came up in a couple different discussions, and I thought I'd bring it out today just to plant the seed that I want to start looking at some of that if it's possible. If not, okay.
For sure.
Thank you. That being said, we'll be at recess till 11 o'clock.